Welcome guys, this is going to be my second video on diagnosing these parking sensors and or blind spot system. So you need to first figure out which system isn't working. Either it's your parking sensors or your blind spot, which are going to be on the side and also on the near the little triangle thing that's part of your blind spot system. Your park assist sensors and your blind spot are on one circuit, but they are two separate systems. So again, you need to figure out if it's either your blind spot, which is on the side, or your parking sensors that aren't working. There is one connector, which I have zip tied, but there used to be a clip here and fell out at some point, so I just zip tied this connector. And then the wiring goes. This is what the blind spot module looks like. It is underneath the bumper. There's two of them on each side, and it's tucked up all the way up there. Now, if you don't have power coming from this pin right here, you're going to need to check right here. Now again, if you don't have power coming from this pin at the module, you sadly need to replace this module. But usually this module doesn't go out. Now, to prevent this corrosion, when you take apart this connector, you're going to want to clean it with electrical cleaner. Also, get some dielectric grease and put it in between the connector, like put a good amount of it. So when you do put it back together, it is weatherproof and it won't cause any more corrosion. Now to test that you have power coming to the sensor, you're going to want to go key on, put it in reverse. Now make sure your parking brake's on all the way, and then also ideally you'd want someone sitting in this position holding the brake pedal to prevent the car rolling back to you. Now as you can see, my reverse lights are on. We're going to go grab my digital multimeter. We're going to set it to DC volts. Now we're going to probe pin 1 and 2. And as you can see, after I probe, I'm getting about 8 volts. Now, if you didn't have power right here, this is when you need to take apart the side and access this module and check that you have power coming from this pin right here. If you don't have power coming from this pin, you probably have a bad module. But again, this is really rare for this module to go bad. Usually you have some sort of issue on the power/ground wire. Now we just checked that our power and ground is good. Next thing we need to do is take out our sensor. Now to take the sensor off, you're going to need to lift up on this upper tab right here. And then there's also a bottom tab. And as you lift up, you're going to want to pull away. Kind of this way. As you can see, this is the sensor. Now the rubber back here is what usually starts to deteriorate, causing water to go inside and making the sensor fail internally. Now when you are putting this back on, this rubber grommet is tapered. You want to make sure it's tapered in like that so the smaller taper part is on the outside. And then to put this in, you just kind of push on it. You want to make sure that both the clips stick onto the ends. Now when you are putting it in, you want to make sure that it is aligned. Then also make sure you get your connector. Yeah, your connector on, and you'll hear a click when it does connect. So first thing you're going to need to do to get to that module over there is you're going to need to pop out these little covers. There's a cover over there and one on this side right there. After you get those out, there's going to be a Phillips screwdriver up there. You're going to need to unscrew this, and then this whole piece you can pull down. Now, what I used to actually get these little covers off is a flathead screwdriver. Just like this. I kind of just kind of pry on it. And then inside in there is going to be a Phillips. Take out those Phillips screws. You're going to need to take this seatbelt cover thing, fits it in here. And then you're just going to pull around. And it should come out. Now you can leave this hanging on the side. Now next you're going to need to remove this panel. Now it is held on by this little clip right here on top. Sorry, on the bottom. And then there's also one up top right there. So what's the little clips look like? So after you take those clips out, you can remove this whole piece. You can start pulling from on the top. And just get your finger kind of around everything. Be careful. And this is how you pull it out. Now, if you have a speaker behind this, you're gonna need to disconnect a wiring. Now, I would invest in some trim tools like this. You pull it, you get it under and just kind of pull up. Then after you do that, pull out those two little clips, you can take this whole piece out. This is what the wire looks like. You just have a little clip piece you just press on. And this is what it looks like from behind. So it'd be connected in there. Now this is only if you have a speaker in here. Some models don't have a speaker back here. Now after you disconnect, you remove this panel actually. You're gonna need to remove this Torx screw. Now the Torx is gonna be a T20. So remove this. After you remove that, you're gonna need to remove this bolt that is hidden underneath this little. To take this bolt off, you're gonna need to grab a 21mm socket, and you're probably gonna need a breaker bar. Now, to remove this trim piece, you're gonna want to pull on it from around the window. Just gonna want to pull up. And it should come out like this. Now, if you look on the side right here, there's a little slit for the seatbelt, which you can pull up to remove this piece, and then you can store it somewhere. Now, the next thing you're gonna need to do is remove these Phillips screws. There's one right there, and then there's one right there. To remove this lower panel, you just kind of grab two fingers and lift up. And then you're gonna need to pull slightly sideways, because there's a little clip on the side. Now after that, make sure you fully take this off. Leave it somewhere on the side. After you remove those two Phillips, you can start pulling on this kind of up here. Now it does take a good amount of force to actually pull off. After you pull it off, you're going to want to pull on this side more. Now you have a lot more access, and I can actually move most of this panel. Now, you could also unclip all this, but there's a lot more work, so I kind of just half undid this panel. So if you look behind there, that little black box, you kind of see that's dark. Now that black box right there, you see, that's going to be your parking assist module. Now removing all those panels gave us access to this connector. We're going to be working on the gray connector, which is also called C2. So to find supply power to these connectors, they're all on pin 1, and then from the connector is going to be pin 4. So we're going to need to disconnect C2 connector or the gray connector and find pin 4. Now I have disconnected the connector C2, and this is what it looks like. Now here's a diagram of what the gray connector looks like. So if we flip it with the connector facing up, the right side would be pin 1 to 4, and then again it goes 5 to 8. So using that, we could figure out that pin 4, which is our power, is going to be the top left. And with our digital multimeter, we're going to want to set it to ohms. And you're going to want to grab a probe, which you can probe these connectors into. Now, I do apologize that you can't see, but you can kind of see right there, I did pin number 4. So again, if we look right here, the top is going to be the connector. So if we go back down to right here, so this is the top. So I probed this pin right here. Now let's say this is our bad connector, sorry, our bad sensor. So there's a push tab which you'd press right here and then you'd pull away. Now after we disconnect this connector, that's what it looks like. We're going to want to probe into pin 1, which is on this side, on the right side. Now let's say you don't have oil right here, so that means that this wire, your power supply wire, is good. Next thing you do is you check your ground, which is pin 2 and then pin 6. Now we checked our power, now we're going to check our ground, which is pin 6. And pin 6 is going to be on the left side, and it's going to be the second one to the bottom. So right now I do have it probed to pin 5, which is kind of hard to see it do. Now we're going to probe the middle connector. Now I don't know if you can hear it, but my DMM is beeping, so I can confirm I don't have an open on my ground or my power. Now what we just checked is our power wire and our ground wire. We checked from here through this connector and through the under end of this connector. We checked that both of these wires have no open, which is good. Now if you did have an open on your power side, then you would need to take apart this connector right here. This would be on the right side or on the passenger side of the vehicle. And this connector would be underneath the vehicle. So you disconnect it, then you would have to look at the connector and look for the white-orange colored wire, and then it should be pin 2. And then on the harness to the sensors, you look at the same colored wire and it would also be in the same position. And then you would check for an open between these two wires, and also you would check for an open between these two. You would do the same thing with the ground, except the ground is going to be a gray, light blue colored. So it would be pin 6. So you take it apart right here, and you check this side or this side to an open. If you did have an open, let's say on this side, then you'd have to replace or rewire this wire right here, and then same thing with this side. Now to put this piece back on, you just kind of want to put it back on in its position that it kind of was. You're going to press up on here and it should click. And after that, you're going to want to bolt on these two little Phillips back on. Next, you're going to want to put on this piece. And make sure you do get your seatbelt back on. Now, there's these little tabs. You're going to want to make sure they goes in first like that. And then you can just kind of push on this and it'll clip back together. After you get that piece on, you could attach this back on. And when you get this bolt back on, make sure it's tight because this is your seatbelt after all. So after you get this on, you can pull on this down and hide this bolt again. Now before you can attach this piece, this trim may be sticking out like this, and it should be behind this little weather guard. Now to get it behind this weather guard, I usually get something smooth. Again, a trim piece, trim remover, and then you kind of put it in between the slot, and you drag it down. Then after you drag down, you could also clip it in. It'll look like that. Now this lower area is kind of tricky, so I would start from actually the bottom over here and work my way up. So after you get all this trim hidden away, you could put this back on. After you're finished with this piece, you're gonna need to put this side piece on. Now if you have a speaker, make sure you connect it up first. Now to To get this piece on, it's kind of tricky. There's a clip right here and a clip right here, and they're sideways, so make sure you kind of want to push this in sideways, like this way, kind of on an angle, and then make sure you all get it up here. And then again, same with this bottom piece, you're going to want to grab some sort of trim removal piece. Now what I usually do for this, I'll get in between and actually just kind of rock it like this. You can see it actually goes on. And then don't forget, you also have those little tip clips that you have, one right there and one in the back there. After you get this piece on, finally attach this upper piece which goes up here. Now with this piece, this white piece, make sure you get it above your liner, so it kind of goes up there like that. After you get this piece on, don't forget about the Phillips and also little cover holes. Now when you get this upper piece on, don't forget about this leather stripping again. Make sure it goes over it. So what you do is you slide down on one side, and then you kind of want to lift up, and then you just press down. That's how you assemble everything back. Now just for this video, I did clear all my codes, but Parktronics was the code I had, which it was under. And I reset my car, so if we turn it on, put it in reverse, as you can see, it's beeping. Also, it is detecting these objects. Now, if this was your blind spot, you see how it lit up right there? So if you turn the car into the on position, it does a full check of the whole system. So if you see that those triangles aren't lighting up, so that means it is your blind spot system that is having the issue. I hope this video gave you guys some information, and if you need more help or some questions, leave them in the description below.